course, from a personal experience, I've met and know a lot of people who practice Islam, and I don't feel threatened. So, and I think that's the way, but there's no doubt that there's violence in Islam, and they sometimes use religion to justify their political goals, just as it was in the Old Testament, in early Judaism. A lot of killing and justification, you know, for religious ground. God told them to do this, God told them to do this. And even today, I mean, if you're looking for people who promote violence, there's a fair number of Christians and Christian groups, a large number of people who were gung-ho over the crusade. It's a crusade. Of course, I had to drop that word because that brought up old memories. But yes, we need to go in there. We need to be in the Middle East. And so I sort of look at this, I try to be as objective as possible and look at what the religion really means to most people and sort of recognize that there are violent strains.
In a completely free market economy, how do we prevent business from exploiting resources too quickly?
Interesting question, and a pretty important question, but the immediate thought that comes to my mind is how do we keep governments from exploiting natural resources, because they have been so detrimental. And natural resources are more or less controlled by governments around the world and our government. And governments aren't very good at this. As a matter of fact, governments are a lot worse than individuals who have private ownership. Private ownership really motivates people to conserve and take care of it. If you take, for instance, forests, if you take government forests or the commons, what they call in the West, that land is never taken care of as well when the government's running it, where everybody owns it and nobody's responsible for it. But when it's owned by individuals, they have an incentive because there's a monetary value to this.
You know, it's interesting. You got to wonder who comes up with the names of these operations, because, you know, what is an anaconda? It's an enormous snake that squeezes its prey until it's dead and then devours it. You know, the imagery there is unmistakable. Yet General Ben Hodges, who's the commander of U.S. Army in Europe, he said, quote, "There's no reason to be nervous. This is strictly a defensive exercise, but with such a provocative name. But the operation, it'll be a 10-day military exercise, as you said, involving 31,000 troops, thousands of military vehicles from 24 countries, the largest war games in Europe since the end of the Cold War, and the largest gathering of foreign military troops in Poland since World War II, when it was full of Nazis and Soviets, etc. So the largest foreign troops in Poland since World War II. But don't be nervous."
Yeah, that's right. Everything will be all right. And my moral concern with this, and I've spoken about this before, is by what right has a previous generation had to set this stage for our generation to pay for this and send our kids over there, and nobody questions it. It's like the war has been declared, all they have to do is step over the line.
Yes, the free market is the strictest, harshest regulator out there, and that's why it's so hated by business and government, because the free market plays no favorites, whereas politicians obviously do.